of the weekend, the final race of the 2025 season for the Finecut Radical Cup UK. This is the pit stop race that will be taking place. The cars are just venturing out onto the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, which is largely bathed in sunshine for the moment. It's chilly out there, though. You get out of that sunshine and into the shade, and you can really feel that it's autumnal. But at least it's fine today. It was pretty grim yesterday here at Donington Park, so we got some clouds, but blue sky intermingled. The cars making their way out onto circuit for what is the last race of the 2025 championship season. Slightly shorter season in 2026 was announced by Radical, which will see the cars visit Brands Hatch, Alton Park, Silverstone and Donington Park. But we also get the European Championship back for next year, which will be very exciting to see. Let me guide you through the grid then, the way that they line up, and also the starting drivers that we have, because we do have 4, 5, 6 cars that are in the teams category, so there will be driver changes during the pit stops. So the cars venturing out onto circuit, work to do still just to try and weave around and build a little bit of tyre temperature. It was damp for their race, the sprint race this morning. It's going to be dry for this one, and the grid will line up as follows, with on pole position Hamish Forrest starting from pole position, and alongside is the newly crowned champion for this year, Marcus Littlewood, who's claimed 13 wins so far this year. Flame Auricola and Paul Denning line up on row number 2, and on row 3 that's where we see Andy Lowe and Jack Yang will start that car, with British touring car driver Bobby Thompson taking over for part 2. Rachel Robertson is on the inside of row number 4, and Jordan Delishka will start at the wheel of the number 20 car on the outside of row number 4. And then on row number 5, it's Matt Yard and Mael Gazarian that will start alongside the next row of the grid, which will be row number 6, Ian MacDonald and Byron Crawford, who will hand over to Jamie Unwin for the part 2 of the race. Row 7 of the grid, it is going to be Laura O'Connell who will start, and alongside is going to be Michelle Sundness. And then the final row of the grid should be John McLeod and Ross Board, with James Pinkerton as the pit lane starter. But I think there's been an amended grid issued at some point, so James Pinkerton will be starting from the pit lane by the look of things. Now, this is a pit stop race, so it is a 50-minute race. It takes 45 seconds as a mandatory stop aspect of your pit stop, but it also takes you the time to drive through the pit lane at the pit lane speed limit, which is 60 kilometres per hour. That takes 15.3 seconds. So the timing loop is pit lane entry to pit lane exit, so it should be a minimum of 60.3 seconds from breaking the beam at pit lane in to serving your mandatory pit stop to breaking the beam at pit lane out, plus any success seconds which you've got, which is an extra 10 seconds in the pit lane for Hamish Forrest, an extra 15 seconds in the pit lane for the number 21 car of Jack Yang, and Rachel Robertson has got an extra 5 seconds in the pit lane, because that was how they performed on the previous pit stop race, which took place at Silverstone on what was the 4th of August. So we're about to get things underway. Hamish Forrest might have lost out on the championship earlier on today, but can he add to the tally of the single win he's taken so far in the 2025 season? We're about to get the last race of the Finecut Radical Cup UK Championship underway. Red lights are on the Grand Prix. Hamish Forrest on pole position. Got somebody diving for the pit lane already, which will be James Pinkerton. And as the lights go out, it is Marcus Littlewood who is trying to match Hamish Forrest. But Marcus Littlewood is on the outside line. Can he sweep around the outside, heading up towards Redgate Corner? The pair of them absolutely together. They give each other racing room. And I think Marcus Littlewood might have a bit more momentum onto the top of Hollywood. Outside line for the first part of the Craner Curves. Will give him the inside line for the second part of the Craner Curves. But then it still gives him the outside line when they go down in towards the old hairpin. They are still side by side. Hamish Forrest finally gets his nose ahead. He has a wiggle mid-corner, which might just slow his exit speed coming out of the old hairpin, and they are still almost side by side as they head up towards the Finecut Schwantz curve. Onto the brakes, in towards the right-hander at McLean's corner. There we'll go. Hamish Forrest leads the way from 13 times race winner Marcus Littlewood in second place, who's trying to see if he can get an undercut coming back out of Coppice Corner, but now he decides to sit behind the race leader, see whether he can get a tow as they head down and in towards the braking area for the left and the right flicks at the Fogarty S's. It's still Hamish Forrest that leads the way from Marcus Littlewood. Last time out earlier on this morning when he claimed the championship title, Marcus Littlewood, you can see all of the team members, including Marcus, in the Parc Ferme area, all sporting t-shirts saying Marcus Littlewood 2025 Radical Champion. Jack Yang dives up the inside of Flame Auricola. That's for position. That is going to be place gained, and that means that Jack Yang is just ahead. Flame Auricola is trying to fight back though in towards the braking area for Goddard, and that's going to be for 5th position by the look of things. So yeah, Jack Yang through and ahead of Flame Auricola. So they're sort of pairing off at the moment, 2 for the lead, 2 fighting over what is third place, and that will be for the lead of the Fangio Trophy as well. That will be Paul Denning, who is coming under pressure from the car that sits behind, which I thought was Andy Lowe, but Andy Lowe's car, I think the transponder might have failed on it, because it's showing Andy Lowe as having completed no laps so far. He is definitely there, right behind Paul Denning, isn't he? Yes, so the number 4 car, the transponder has not registered as he's come over the start-finish line. So up towards McLean's corner, working their way through the Kinkert-Schwantz curve. Paul Denning leading the Fangio category for drivers aged 50 or over at the beginning of the championship season. 3rd overall. He's got the orange car of Andy Lowe directly behind him. Then it's Jack Yang that will be next up, running in 5th position. Flame Auricular, having been passed by Jack Yang, has dropped down through the order. And we've got somebody carving their way out of the gravel trap there. And who would that be? That was Flame Auricular, actually, by the look of things. Yeah, so that's Flame that's had the problem. And that means that the number 51 car in the hands of the Finnish driver, granddaughter of one of the Flying Finns, the late great Pentti Auricular, who was a Lombard RAC rally winner back in the day, went rallying through the gravel there. So up towards the braking area and conclusion of lap number 2 at this stage. Over the start-finish line comes Hamish Forrest, who still continues to lead the way from Marcus Littlewood in 2nd position. So those two have edged away quite substantively from Paul Denning, who's still there in 3rd place. Then it's going to be Andy Lowe in 4th position, who still hasn't registered a single lap as yet, according to our timing screens in front of us. So that's why he's all the way down, showing in 16th place on the graphics. But no, absolutely, he's still out there and circulating, and our timekeepers will establish the fact that that transponder isn't recording. They'll manually slot him back in for sure. Further down through the order, good fight going on with Ross Broad, fighting away with Byron Crawford, and also James Pinkerton, the pit lane starter, has managed to catch up with them as well at the wheel of the number 99 car, the head of design and development for Radical Sports Cars, based at Peterborough. James, a double former Radical champion himself back in the day, a flash of the lights as he tries to close up on the car that's ahead of him. And is he going to be able to squeeze his way through and ahead of Byron Crawford? No, he bides his time, so he doesn't want to get involved in the customers and the squabbles. And I'm afraid, off and into the gravel, that's at Coppice Corner, we have lost Matt Yard. So he's had a spin coming round through Coppice, and you can just see the dust in the background. And I'm afraid that might mean that that is going to have to be a safety car whilst we snatch that car out of harm's way. Now, Matt is having his first weekend of racing in the Radical UK Cup. Regularly see him racing the Radical Club Challenge in association with 750 Motor Club. It's his first weekend of racing in the Radical Cup UK, the Finecut Radical Cup UK. And as expected, yes, safety car is now coming out because of that stricken car in the gravel trap. Now, might just need a bit of a shove from the marshals to get going. They're going to give it a go, but you can see the wheels are spinning, and the flat bottom on the Radical means that it's bottomed out. So Matt Yard will rue that small mistake, which has pitched him into retirement, and they will drag that car out of harm's way. So the clock will still continue to tick. Now, the pit window doesn't open until 20 minutes into the race, so after 20 minutes, that's when a pit displayed board is held out over the start-finish line. You have to pass the board. So when we get to 20 minutes of the race, that's when the board is held out. You can't just come straight into the pits. You have to pass that board, and then once you have passed the board, you then have 10 minutes to conduct your mandatory pit stop. And then after that, the pit closed board is held out. If you pass the pit closed board and you haven't conducted your mandatory pit stop, you are beyond the window and you'll get a penalty. But you have to come in during that 10-minute period and serve what is, let's say, 45 minutes stationary, plus any success seconds, which is Rachel Robertson an extra 5, Hamish Forrest an extra 10, and Jack Yang handing over to Bobby Thompson an extra 15 seconds. And then we know it also takes you 15.3 seconds to drive from one end of the pit lane to the other at the 60-kilometre pit lane speed limit. So bare minimum, any car should be in the pits from pit in to pit out, 60.3 seconds, unless you've got success seconds, and then you add it to that. So safety car is waiting to collect the cars, which are just now coming down through the Melbourne hairpin and starting to head over the start-finish line. Hamish Forrest leading the way. Marcus Littlewood, just before the safety car came out, did set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:30.348. And looking at what's going on there with Matt Yard's car, the wheels weren't turning, which suggests that either there was a problem that pitched him into the gravel in the first place, or they can't find a neutral on it now. Because it certainly looked as though that car was still in gear as it was being dragged through the gravel trap. So the order at the moment then, number 95 Hamish Forrest leading away. Number 3, the newly crowned champion Marcus Littlewood in second place. Then in third place it is Paul Denning. Fourth place is Andy Lowe, which has now been corrected by our timekeepers who spotted the error with his transponder not working. Fifth place is Jack Yang at this stage, and completing the top 6 is John McLeod. Seventh is Rachel Robertson. Eighth place is Jordan Delishka. Ninth place is Flamer Ricola after her small moment up at Coppice Corner. And Ian MacDonald, the number 13 car, completes the top 10 at this stage. 11th place is going to be Ross Broad. James Pinkerton is there in 12th place. Byron Crawford is 13th. 14th is going to be Maral Gazarian. And then 15th will be Laura O'Connell, isn't it, that started that car? Yes, 15th will be Laura O'Connell. Those are the cars that are out there at this stage. So have to wait and see as to how long it's going to take to get this car out of the gravel trap. I wouldn't have thought it would be a great deal longer that we'll see the car out of the gravel, and then the lights will go out on the safety car and be able to get the race back underway. So still work to be done for Hamish Forrest, weaving his way around, trying to maintain some tyre temperature in the control Hankook tyres that all of these cars run. Hankook were the global partner for Radical, so no matter where you race a Radical, whether it be here in the UK, in the European Championship, of course, which resumes next year, the Middle East, North America, Australia, Scandinavian Championships, it really is pretty much all 4 corners of the globe. You run on a Hankook tyre. They are the global partners for Radical. Lights are off on the safety car, so we're going to get racing again at the end of this lap. So we've still got 41 minutes of the race to go. Hamish Forrest will decide as to when he wants to plant his foot on the accelerator and get the race back underway. You can't overtake until you reach the start-finish line. So Hamish Forrest still just sort of weaving from side to side. He's going to try and get the jump on all of those behind, which will include Marcus Littlewood. And he goes for it now, Hamish Forrest, but Marcus Littlewood was ready for that. So up towards the braking area for Goddard's they'll go. They are still nose to tail for the lead of the race, with Paul Denning still there in third position, Andy Lowe in fourth, Jack Yang and John McLeod completing the top 6. Green flag waves, back over the start-finish line. They can now attack again, and straight away that's what Marcus Littlewood is looking to do to our race leader. So up towards Redgate Corner, can he try and get the undercut heading up onto the top of Hollywood? No, cannot quite make it stick. So it is still Hamish Forrest that leads the way from Marcus Littlewood in second position. Keep an eye on what's going on further back as well, because it looks as though in 5th place Jack Yang is feeling the pressure from the white and Dayglow green car in the hands of John McLeod. Flame Maricola will also look to try and work her way back up through the order from 9th place after her problems with the number 51 car. That's the black car with the lighter blue stripe all the way down the centre of it. But for the lead of the race, Hamish Forrest looking to see if he can pull away. He knows he's got to work hard here, does Hamish Forrest, because yes, he leads the race, but he knows, based on what happened last time out at Silverstone, he's picked up an extra 10 success seconds. So he knows he's got to push hard, because he will be stopping in the pit lane for 10 seconds longer than Marcus Littlewood will be doing. And that is all down to where you finish on the previous pit stop race. If you win your clash, you get an extra 20 seconds in the pit lane. If you're second, it's an extra 15. If you're third, it's an extra 10. And fourth and fifth pick up an extra 5. John McLeod up the inside of Jack Yang, heading in towards the Melbourne hairpin. That's a change for order. So that is now the white and the Dayglow green car, number 14, John McLeod, up into 5th place. Jack Yang drops down into 6th place. The driver who resides out in America but has done pretty much the full season this year in the Finecut Radical Cup UK Championship. Up towards Redgate Corner they'll go. Hamish Forrest leading the way from Marcus Littlewood, who is still trying to attack as best he can. It was just 0.5 of a second between the pair of them last time through. So onto the top of Hollywood, down through the Craner curves, and then as they complete what is lap 6, they'll be onto lap number 7. John McLeod pulling away from Jack Yang since taking the place away. So the next target for John McLeod will be the next couple of cars up the road. Andy Lowe in the largely orange number 4 car, and then the black and the multicoloured car of Paul Denning. And if John McLeod can get to those, he'll then just not be fighting for 3rd and for 4th position. He'll be fighting with the cars that are 1st and 2nd in the Fangio Trophy at the moment, because John McLeod is 3rd in that category. So keep your eye on that. If he can close in, he'll be right there. But I think the closing is the least of his worries, trying to hang on to the place because Jack Yang has managed to slipstream his way back through once more. So Jack Yang back up into 5th place. John McLeod back down into 6th position, and he's got it all to do again at this stage. In towards the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin. John McLeod tries to brake as late as he can to draw himself alongside Jack Yang, but that's the outside line, so he has to tuck himself back behind once more as they head up towards the braking area for Goddard's. He's too far back then to try and make a lunge heading in towards Goddard's, where you have sort of off camber as you turn your way into the corner. It's very easy to outbrake yourself, and then the car sort of runs wide a little bit. But the race leader's over the start-finish line. New fastest lap of the race for Hamish Forrest. 1 minute 29.756 from Hamish Forrest, extending the lead advantage up to 0.8 of a second between himself and Marcus Littlewood, who's there in 2nd position. Paul Denning still there in 3rd at the moment, so he's still leading the Fangio Trophy at this stage, but only just. He's still got the orange number 4 car of Andy Lowe tucked right behind him. There's 0.3 of a second between the pair of them as they came over the start-finish line. There's less than a radical length as they head up towards McLean's corner. Andy Lowe just makes a little bit of contact with the side of Paul Denning, but goes through to pick up the lead of the Fangio Trophy. And then because Paul Denning was delayed going through McLean's corner, that now means that he's lost a further place because Jack Yang has now managed to wiggle his way through. So it's just a light touch between the pair of them, Andy Lowe and Paul Denning, and I'm afraid Paul Denning has lost not 1 but 2 places, and it could be 3 here because John McLeod is having a nibble as they head in towards the Fogarty S's. Eventually backed out of the move because he could see the door was going to close, so it's just the 2 places lost for Paul Denning at the moment. But down from 3rd to 5th is not what he wanted, and then he's under attack again from John McLeod as he heads in towards the Melbourne hairpin. The 2 of them almost again rubbing with each other, and this has also now brought Rachel Robertson into the mix as well. Paul Denning, I think, will just about hang on to the place. John McLeod takes a wider entrance in towards Coppice, see if he can cut back on the exit, but he's just, I think, come up a little bit short. There's one further opportunity, and that's the heavy braking area up towards Redgate Corner. What is he going to do? The answer is he's going to sit behind. So Paul Denning hangs on to 5th place. John McLeod sits there in 6th place. Rachel Robertson is 7th. And then in 8th place, that is going to be the number 20 car in the hands of Jordan Delishka, who started at the wheel of the number 20 car. That's the orange car that is, again, not that far away. So it's a train of cars that's beginning to build behind Paul Denning. And in fact, once you get Jordan Delishka in the mix as well, not that far back from there is Flame Auricola. So that is an ever-increasing amount of cars that are queuing up behind Paul Denning at this stage. You can see them. So the white car with the green is John McLeod, then it's Rachel Robertson, then it's Jordan Delishka, then it's Flame Auricola, and then almost joining in on the fun now also is James Pinkerton in the number 99 car. So 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and almost 10th are all together. And the top 4 now just starting to pull away. So Hamish Forrest, Marcus Littlewood, Andy Lowe and Jack Yang won't be too worried about what's going on behind them because they seem to have the pace at this stage. So 35 minutes to go still of this race, which is a 50-minute race. So not as yet will we be seeing the pit window open. So it only opens after 20 minutes of the race. It's about another 5 minutes before we see the pit open board hung out over the start-finish line. As for our race leader Hamish Forrest, well, he's still got a slender lead. It's only 1.1 seconds that he leads by. Did set the fastest lap of the race last time through as well. Ian McDonald at the wheel of the number 13 car just working his way out of the Melbourne hairpin. James Pinkerton, the number 99 car from the pit lane, has now managed to catch Flame Auricola. So those 2 are pretty much together. Down through the Craner curve still dives the 5th place car, number 25, in the hands of Paul Denning, who has still got John McLeod right with him. John almost running out of room at the exit of the old hairpin. Bounces over the curbs on the exit. Doesn't really lift his foot off the throttle though, keeps it planted. So he's still right behind Paul Denning. This is for 5th and for 6th position, but also 2nd and 3rd in the Fangio Trophy, for which John McLeod is going to be the champion in that for this year. He has now moved himself into a position that he's in an unassailable lead, having claimed the victory in the Fangio Trophy earlier on today. So he is going to be another driver that has lifted the championship crown, but in the Fangio Trophy for those aged 50 and over at the beginning of the season. Ross Board further down through the orders, running in 11th place at the moment. He's got Byron Crawford in the black car with a red flash not that far behind him. Now that car will be interesting to see how it gets on in part 2 of the race when Jamie Unwin takes over the car. Jamie, who we've seen doing lots of instructing in Ferraris in recent years, but I think it's probably his debut in the Finecut Radical UK Cup. So over the start-finish line, there's the queue of cars sitting behind what is John McLeod. Flamer Ricola still coming under pressure from the number 99 car in the hands of James Pinkerton. So that's 9th and 10th all still together. And down through the Craner curves, it looks as though Paul Denning has got, for the first time in this race, almost a little bit of respite, because John McLeod isn't quite as close behind him as he had been in the early stages of this race. So 32.5 minutes still remaining, so we're 2.5 minutes away from the pit window open board being held out over the start finish line. And as we say, it's still then a 10-minute window, so there's still plenty of opportunity for cars to dive into the pit lane. There's one car though that's just stopped at pit lane exit, and it has come to a halt, and I think that might be Maral Ghazarian. It is, yeah. So Maral Ghazarian comes to a halt at pit lane exit. Not quite sure what the problem is, but a car stricken at pit lane exit not far from when the pit window opens is not what we want. Right, news just reached us. Hamish Forrest, race leader, 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits. So Hamish Forrest leading by 9/10 of a second. Well, on corrected times now, that means that Marcus Littlewood is going to pick up the lead of the race. So for Hamish Forrest, yes, he'd been pushing hard, but he's over-pushed the limits. He's picked up a 5-second penalty, and remember, he's got to remain in the pit lane for an extra 10 seconds compared to Marcus Littlewood as well. So it's sort of coming unravelled a little bit for our race leader, and it's going to become even more unravelled now because the safety car's coming back out with that car stricken at pit lane exit of Maral Ghazarian. So that is going to bring the safety car back out onto circuit just as the pit window opens. I think the marshals have managed to get to Maral and are going to push her back down the pit lane. So car's in neutral. It shouldn't take too long for the marshals just to get the car out of harm's way, but it was certainly probably not safe for them to underwrite the way back out there whilst the cars are still coming by at full racing speed. So is the car? No, I think the car's stuck in gear, so I think Maral is having to dip the clutch to get the car into a neutral, and from the car now being pushed by the marshals, it's now locked back in gear, I'm afraid. So it may well possibly need a recovery truck to come and assist. So safety car still out there. Marshall's rocking the car backwards and forwards to see whether it will allow then Maral to find a neutral gear in it, but no, it looks as though they are radioing towards race control to say that we need something to come and assist us here, because they are not able to push the car out of harm's way. It goes a few centimetres, and then of course it hits the compression point again within the engine, so just will not move out of harm's way. So to run you down through the order then, we're only a few seconds away from the pit window opening, so it may well be that the pit window gets delayed, because you can't really have cars coming into the pits and completing their pit stops and coming out when there's a blockage at pit lane exit. So the order at the moment is Hamish Forrest leads on the road, but we know he's got a 5-second penalty for track limits. Second is the number 3 car in the hands of Marcus Littlewood. Third, and leading the Fangio Trophy, is Andy Lowe at the wheel of the number 4 car. And fourth, the first of the team cars at the moment, is Jack Yang at the wheel of the number 21 car. Paul Denning is there in 5th place. At 6th is John McLeod. Rachel Robertson is in 7th place. Jordan Delishka is in 8th place. Flamer Ricola is in 9th place. And James Pinkerton, who is at the back of the queue that's already formed behind the safety car, completes the top 10 at this stage. So that's the order of the top 10. And as we say, it's Hamish Forrest that leads overall. Andy Lowe in 3rd leads the Fangio category, and Jack Yang leads the team category. Clambering out of the car, I'm afraid, is Maral Ghazarian. So leaves the stricken number 70 car where it came to rest there at pit lane exit. The marshals just ushering her behind the wall to relative safety. As I say, with the car stuck in gear, there's nothing the marshals can do about it. We'll need the requirement of a flatbed recovery unit or a telehandler to head towards it and lift the car out of harm's way. We're also now into the pit window as well, so whether the officials have told the teams and to delay the pit window, or whether the pit open board is just not going to be held out. So So you can't really have the pit window open when we've got a blockage at pit lane exit, because anybody that concludes the pit stop are going to have to weave their way through and past. So telehandler on hand, so it is about to put the telescopic boom out so that our marshal can then use the strops to attach it to the roll hoop of the Radical SR3, and then once it is double stropped it should balance nicely, and then it's just a case of them moving the car out of harm's way. So I would imagine what they'll do is they'll probably go the wrong way down pit lane exit, drop the car in towards the pit lane area, and then the telehandler can then work its way through the perimeter roads back to where it needs to be, which will be usually in a snatch gap at Redgate Corner. So race control confirming the pit window is open, so we could potentially have cars coming in towards the pits. Let's hope if we do that they are sensible with their exit of the pit lane, because as I say, we've got a telehandler down there at the moment trying to remove this stricken car of Marel Ghazarian out of harm's way. And where is the telehandler going? It is not going to go the wrong way down the pit lane. It is going to reverse back towards Redgate Corner with the car by the look of things. So that at least will mean that going that way will leave the pit exit available should anybody dive into the pits at the end of this one. And you would have thought that everybody would dive into the pits because the pit window is open. You're under safety car. Get your pit stop done whilst you're under safety car, because that is going to cost you far less time than doing a green flag pit stop. So we'll wait and see as to when they all come round. Is it going to be a very full pit lane? One would imagine so. So they're just coming up towards Goddard's Corner now, I think, the safety car train. And then everybody, I would imagine, will probably peel left and into towards the pit lane. In fact, no, safety car only just coming out of the Melbourne hairpin, so it's a slow old lap behind the safety car this time through, and that would have been probably communicated to the safety car driver to really slow up on this lap, because that way we can ensure that pit exit is clear of the stricken car. So in towards the left-hander at Goddard's. Everybody, I'm sure, is going to be destined for the pits on this lap, because I can't imagine why you would stay out whilst you're under safety car. And the safety car board, in fact, I think only the pit window open board is only now just being held out, actually. So I think they've all got to pass it. So be one further lap behind the safety car, and then we'll see everybody diving in towards the pit lane. And next time they come through, hopefully, we'll almost see the safety car come back in as well, because the telehandler is almost at Redgate Corner, and then all it needs to do then is do a tiny bit more reversing into the little gap that's there. The marshal is ready to receive the telehandler, so the recticel barriers have been moved out of harm's way. The gate has been opened, and then everybody can feed their way back to where they need to be, back behind the barriers in the case of the telehandler, and the Radical that it has dealt with will be sort of dropped off there and then collected by a recovery truck midway through this race, one would have thought. But that's such a shame, for not just for Marel Ghazarian, but also for Lena Gaio, who will not get the opportunity to drive that car. So safety car bringing the cars down through the Craner curves. It's on lap number 14 at the moment. Hamish Forrest from Marcus Littlewood first and second. For Marcus Littlewood, the pressure is off really in this race in the black and the Dago orange machine, because with his win earlier on today, his 13th of the season, that now means he is a double Radical champion. He claimed the Radical SR1 championship last year, and whilst he runs second in this race, he is already now the 2025 Finecut Radical Cup UK champion for this year, and he would dearly like to try and cap the season off with another hat-trick of wins. We've seen him a few times this year do that. At Donington Park here earlier on in the season, he claimed a win in all three races. Now you could argue that's probably the easier one to do it in, because it's there's no success seconds for the pit stop race, which is the third race of the weekend, because you only accumulate success seconds in the pit stop looking back at what happened in the previous race. Well, there wasn't one because it was the first one of the year. Brands Hatch, he didn't do the treble at Brands Hatch because, of course, he won in the pit stop race at Donington, so he had extra time to spend in the pit lane at Brands Hatch in the pit stop race, so he only finished second. Snetterton, he did the treble there, so Donington and at Snetterton, he's managed to scoop up wins in all of the races. And then at Zandvoort, it was each step at the podium, the first, second and the third over the weekend, and last time out it was 2 wins and a 7th place at Silverstone. So it really has been a solid season for Marcus Littlewood. Lights are out on the safety car. We are about to get things back underway before too much longer. And are we going to see everybody dive into the pit lane at the end of this lap? We'll have to wait and see. Last time through, when we got rid of the safety car, it was a good restart for both Hamish Forrest and Marcus Littlewood. Hamish really slowed things up coming out of the Melbourne hairpin last time. He's doing the same again this time, almost at a snail's pace, and off he goes again. So tries to scamper away from Marcus Littlewood, who would have been hovering with his foot over the accelerator pedal to get on the gas immediately. And are they all going to dive for the pit lane at the end of this lap? It looks as though some are, but some are not. So it's going to be still Hamish Forrest from Marcus Littlewood, but others in the background now all dive for the pit lane, and that will include the likes of Paul Denning, of Rachel Robertson, of Flame Auricola. I think we've also got Ross Board in towards the pit lane, and Byron Crawford all came into the pit lane that time through. But for the lead of the race, it is still Hamish Forrest from Marcus Littlewood. I think Andy Lowe died for the pit lane as well, but of course his transponder isn't working, so that was why it just took a while to identify an extra car that was there in the pit lane. So fluids being taken on board. It now means that Jack Yang moves up into third place overall, but that car that's in third place has got an extra 15 seconds to spend in the pit lane when the car is handed over to ex-British touring car driver Bobby Thompson for part 2 of the race. So there's Andy Lowe, who's being held in position before he can get things back underway. Fires the car up and then stalls it by the look of things. So slightly slower pit stop potentially than Andy would have wished for. And that may well cost him dear, because he'll be looking to see if he can get himself right back towards the sharp end of the Fangio Trophy. So Paul Denning out of the pit lane. Jamie Unwin now on board out of the pit lane. Andy Lowe that little bit slower away out of the pit lane. Rachel Robertson out of the pit lane. And then we've got Ross Board out of the pit lane and Flame Auricola. So all the cars that came in have served their mandatory pit stop. Hopefully they've all got the times right and the timings right, so that they are not short on pit stop. And now into the pit lane comes race leader Hamish Forrest. John McLeod comes into the pit lane, and also I think that was going to be the car of John Delishka into the pit lane as well. So the second batch of pit stops taking place. For Marcus Littlewood though, he now takes over the lead of the race and stays out there. Also staying out there on that lap was Jack Yang, and James Pinkerton stayed out as well, I think. So still 3 cars as yet to dive for the pit lane, with 21 minutes still remaining on the clock. And Marcus Littlewood, the reigning champion for this year, now leading the way. Now, we know that Marcus Littlewood should come out ahead of Hamish Forrest, because Hamish Forrest has got an extra 10 seconds to spend in the pit lane area. Change of driver just taking place, so that will be Natalie Neumann jumping on board the number 20 car. Jordan Delishka is done with driving duties for this weekend. Darren Winter, who runs the team, busy strapping her in on the right-hand side of the car. And with all of the seatbelts done up, fire the engine up, and Natalie Neumann will make her way out onto circuit for part 2 of the race. So we're just past half distance at this stage. There is Jordan Delishka. And Charlotte in hand, driving duty done. Are we going to have any more cars in on this lap? So Marcus Littlewood we have not seen come in. I think I just saw him diving for the pit lane just as the camera shot cut away there. I think that was the race leader potentially just coming in towards the pit lane. Yep, confirmation on our screens, he did come in, and Jack Yang came in as well. So all of the cars that we were awaiting have now made their way in towards the pit lane. So here comes the newly crowned champion from earlier on today, Marcus Littlewood, in towards the pits, looking to see if he can hunt out his 14th victory of the 2025 championship season. A slight adjustment to tyre pressures just being done to take a bit of pressure out of the tyre, get it back in the sweet spot again, the core operating window for that. Look at the bug splat as well, right in the eye line of Marcus Littlewood's visor there. So it's one insect that's clobbered the visor and has left a real imprint on it. So you'll have to put up with that and try and make sure that it's in your peripheral vision as much as you can, but he'll be gazing through the muck on his visor there. And where is he going to rejoin in this race? It should be in the lead of the race, because Hamish Forrest with an extra 10 seconds in the pit lane, I think, is going to lose the lead. The other cars that came in that lap later now working their way down towards the end of the pit lane, but out of the pit lane comes Marcus Littlewood, and he is going to pick up the lead of the race. And up into second place will be Hamish Forrest. I think that might be James Pinkerton potentially that's there in third place. Looks as though it's a long stop going on for Laura O'Connell, giving way to Hannah Selsey. So they were fourth when they came in towards the pit lane, but it does seem to be taking slightly longer for that pit stop to take place. We've also now got, I think, another 5-second penalty for track limits. We saw one for Hamish Forest. That was issued very early on into this race. But I think the sister car now, the identical livery, Rachel Robertson, has also picked up exactly the same penalty. Yes, she has. 5-second penalty for track limits for Rachel Robertson. So the car that's running in 10th, add 5 seconds to Rachel's time at the moment, it would drop her to 11th behind Flame Auricola. So 18 minutes still remaining of the 2025 championship season. Marcus Littlewood leading the way from what we'll see in second place will be, I think it's Hamish Forest there in second place. James Pinkerton in third, John McLeod in fourth, but we can only confirm all of that when the cars come over the start-finish line, because they're still in a jumbled order at the moment when they last crossed the start-finish line. Bobby Thompson trying to attack cars ahead as well. He's trying to attack Andy Lowe heading in towards the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin. And there is the 56 car, so that's Rachel Robertson, as we say, has picked up that time penalty. An extra 5 seconds will be added to her race time. So confirming the order then, as the pit stops have pretty much now been completed. Marcus Littlewood leads the way by 4.1 seconds from Hamish Forest, who is second on the road, but remember has a 5-second penalty for track limits. Third on the road is James Pinkerton, the head of design and development for Radical in the factory run car. And fourth, leading the Fangio trophy, is going to be the car of John McLeod at this stage. That's the white car with the Dayglow green flashes to it. Fifth is number 25, that's Paul Denning. And sixth is going to be Jamie Unwin at the moment, at the wheel of the number 26 car. But Jamie is under pressure. He's got Andy Lowe right behind him, and then Bobby Thompson just off that as well at the wheel of number 21 car. And that little trio are just picking their way up towards McLean's corner now. Jamie Unwin has Andy Lowe dive his way up the inside, and Jamie Unwin sees him coming and then loses a further place as Bobby Thompson comes through. Andy Lowe trying to squeeze Bobby Thompson towards the grass to prevent him from losing a position. I think the inevitable is going to happen here for Andy Lowe. Andy's got plenty of Radical racing experience, but Bobby Thompson, of course, has been used to the cut and thrust of the British Touring Car Championship. So onto the brakes, turns his way through the left and the right flicks at the Fogarty S's. Bobby Thompson gets a better exit coming out of the corner. There's nothing Andy Lowe can do about that. So he should be alongside on the run in towards the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin. Bobby Thompson goes through. Andy Lowe loses a place, but then almost left the door open for Jamie Unwin to unlock. Jamie eventually just getting back out of the move. So 15 minutes of this race still to go. Marcus Littlewood is leading the way, and he's leading the way by now just 3.5 seconds, because Hamish Forest in second place has just set the fastest lap of the race we've seen so far. 1 minute 28.982 from Hamish Forest, bringing the lead advantage down to 3.5 seconds, and that was 7/10 of a second quicker than the race leader managed on the previous lap. Problem is for Hamish Forest, he's got to catch, then he's got to try and get past, but he's still got this 5-second penalty hanging over him, and if you add 5 seconds to his race time, that is going to drop him down into 4th position at the moment. So James Pinkerton will move up to 2nd, John McLeod would move up to 3rd, and Hamish Forest would drop to 4th with the 5-second penalty applied. Up towards McLean's corner, Jamie Unwin still coming under pressure. Next to the cars that's going to try and come through is Rachel Robertson. Rachel, who again has also got this 5-second penalty hanging over her. She also wants to crack on, because if she looks in her mirror, she'll be able to see that the number 51 car of Flame Auricola is trying to make some progress. So in towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's. Rachel Robertson up the inside of Jamie Unwin, steals the place away, so goes through on the road, but of course on corrected times would still be behind the car she's just overtaken. And now Flame Auricola is also looking to go through and ahead of Jamie Unwin, who again, first weekend of racing in the Finecut Radical Cup UK. He does not want to get involved in the squabbles for those drivers that are already totting up the championship points, the likes of Rachel Robertson, who's been in for the full season, and Flame Auricola, who has done a part season. So over the start-finish line, they will work their way. What kind of lap times is Bobby Thompson doing now? He's taken over the number 21 car. Bobby last time through 129.981, so that's about 7/10 of a second down on race leader Marcus Littlewood, who is still lapping about 7/10 of a second slower than Hamish Forest. Another new fastest lap of the race for the second place number 95 car of Hamish Forest last time through. He did a 1 minute 28.593. So he's brought the lead advantage down to 2.8 seconds between the pair of them. So up towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's go the leading pair. It'll be Natalie Neumann's car, the number 20 car that our race leader is just having to deal with at the moment, to work his way past that car and lap it. Sneaks through before the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin, and then Natalie Neumann, I'm sure, will just make sure that she's courteous to Hamish Forrest as they head in towards the braking area for Goddard's corner. Through goes Hamish Forrest and places a lap on Natalie Neumann, the driver from Luxembourg. And then over the start-finish line will go the leading pair. So Hamish Forrest can see the target. He will probably know he's got a 5-second penalty as well for those track limits. What he can't afford to do is go beyond them once more. And I think there is now another driver that's got a 5-second time penalty for track limits. That is Andy Lowe, who runs in the number 4 car. He's also now picked up a 5-second penalty. So he runs 4th on the road. He runs 7th on the road. Rachel Robertson runs 8th on the road, and they've both picked up time penalties. So that's 3 cars now with 5-second penalties hanging around them. 12.5 minutes of the race still to go. Marcus Littlewood leading by 2.3 seconds at the end of that particular lap. Again, he was about 5/10 down, probably on the car that he was hunting down, and that, I'm afraid, is Jamie Unwin. Now, what's happened to Jamie there? That is on the approach towards Goddard's where he's had the problem, and the car has come to a halt. He's going to fire it back up and get going once more, is Jamie. So must have just lost the car under braking. Spins the car around, gets going, continues on his merry way, and at least prevents any sort of safety car requirement. And Jamie Unwin, I'm afraid, has dropped outside of the top 10 with that, because Ross Board has gone through into 10th place, Ian McDonald has gone through into 11th, and Jamie Unwin now drops down into 12th position at the wheel of the number 26 car. So no harm done, but just places lost for Jamie Unwin, and that cost him the best part of nearly 30-40 seconds in that sector the car was stationary for while he was trying to fire it back up. For the lead of the race, the gap keeps coming down. 9/10 of a second quicker that time through was Hamish Forrest compared to the race leader, so the gap is now down to 1.4 seconds on the road from first to second place. Hamish Forrest is also now more than 5 seconds ahead of James Pinkerton, who's there in third. So even on corrected times at the moment, the number 95 car would still hang on to second place. But what Hamish Forrest would like to do is wiggle his way through and ahead if he can. He's still got the first part of the task to do, which is to catch Marcus Littlewood. He's almost there, not quite, but he's almost there. And then he's got the even harder part to do, which is try and go through into the lead of the race. And then, of course, the final part of the task will be to try and build a 5-second penalty to overcome the time penalty that he's picked up. So there is plenty of work for Hamish Forrest to do if he wants to try and secure what for him would only be his second victory of the season so far. Hamish Forrest is the only driver entered this weekend other than Marcus Littlewood, who has claimed a win in the championship this year, because Max van der Snel, who claimed a win at his home circuit at Zandvoort, is not here. We also saw Max win one of the races at Silverstone last time out. And also Shane Stoney, who did a one-off outing at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit. He won the pit stop race there as well, and neither of those two drivers are entered for this weekend. So Marcus Littlewood has claimed 14 wins. Hamish Forrest has claimed 1 win. And that's where all of the wins have gone, other than those drivers that aren't here this weekend. So we're on lap number 22 at the moment, and more news reaching me with regards to track limits and cars picking up penalties. And this time it is for the overall race leader, which is Marcus Littlewood, that has picked up a 5-second penalty for track limits. So that is showing on my timing screen there, and it's also showing that Rachel Robertson possibly might have picked up now what will be a 10-second penalty for track limits. So track limit warnings are racking up all of the time. So if this is the case, then what we've now got at least is Hamish Forrest trying to hunt down Marcus Littlewood for the lead of the race, both of them having had time penalties, and they will both cancel each other out in reality. So it is going to be a full scrap for the lead. So in towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's. Marcus Littlewood pushing as hard as he can. In the first sector he was, crumbs, literally 2/1000ths of a second quicker than Hamish Forrest. In the middle sector he was 5/1000ths of a second quicker than Hamish Forrest, so they are going to lap within a tenth of a second of each other, so the gap isn't going to come down much at all this time through. It was 1.011 seconds first to second last time through. This time when they work their way over the start finish line, the gap is down to 0.8, so through the final sector is where Hamish Forrest seems to have a better car underneath him, who's nearly a quarter of a second quicker just through the final sector of the lap. The final sector really is just the Melbourne Loop. It's the braking area for the Fogarty S's. The Melbourne Hairpin and Goddard's is the final sector. So there we go, confirmation on the screen that Marcus Littlewood has picked up that 5-second penalty for track limits. So this is the battle for the lead of the race. You can see Hamish Forrest bouncing over the apex curb down at the old hairpin, pushing as hard as he possibly can. He's not leaving a great deal on the table, is he? And Hamish Forrest has had to sort of up his pace in the last few laps to see whether he can cling on to the lead of the race. But the last lap, he was still a quarter of a second slower. We've also got a fight going on track for what will be 5th and 6th place at the moment. But in 5th place, the number 25 car of Paul Denning is another car that has picked up a 5-second penalty for track limits. He is under pressure from the number 21 car of Bobby Thompson, which is the leading team's car we've got in the race at this stage. Jack Yang haven't done the hard work at the wheel of number 21 car in the early stages. And then over the start finish line, this is going to be Ross Board fighting away with the number 40 car, which is now going to be in the hands of Hannah Selsey. But Hannah Selsey is only 21 laps into the race because there was a long old pit stop, wasn't it, for that particular car, and that's why that car has now dropped off the lead lap, and Ross Board will look to try and cement what will be the final place inside the top 10. Over the start finish line, lead advantage, has it come down? Yes, but only by 70,000ths of a second that time through, so it is 0.785 of a second first to second place. That is the gap that exists, with now just 6.5 minutes remaining in the 2025 championship season for the Finecut Radical Cup UK. Marcus Littlewood seeing if he can tot up win number 14 of the season. Hamish Forrest would like to cap off a season with his second win of the year, but the stranglehold at the moment in terms of wins still looking as though he's going to go the way of Marcus Littlewood. Hamish Forrest though pushing hard through the first sector. He was exactly 100th of a second slower than Hamish Forrest. They'll be coming up towards the end of the second sector now, which is just roughly where the Dunlop Bridge used to be. So any point now they will flash their way through the second sector. And through the second sector, Hamish Forrest is just under 0.2 of a second quicker than Marcus Littlewood, the race leader. And we know Hamish Forrest is particularly quick through the third and final sector. There's a lot of traffic as well just up the road that could come into play towards the tail end of this one. Rachel Robertson and Andy Lowe have now picked up 15-second part-time penalties for track limits, so more and more cars racking up track limit penalties. 5.5 minutes to go. Out of Goddard and over the start-finish line come the leading pair. The lead advantage is now down to 0.4 of a second. They're just about to come up to lap Hannah Selsey. Is the Irish woman going to see them coming and move out of harm's way? They're going to catch it just on the exit of Redgate Corner. Hannah Selsey is going to leave the door open, let both first and second place wiggle their way through. James Pinkerton in third place has now picked up a time penalty as well for track limits. So first, second and third have all got time penalties at this stage. 5 seconds apiece. But for the lead of the race, Marcus Littlewood is having to work overtime again. Last time through, it was Hamish Forrest who was 0.3 of a second quicker than Marcus Littlewood. Time is running out. Hamish Forrest has done the hard work of catching. He's now got to try and work his way through and past if at all he can. There's another bit of traffic just up the road to deal with, and that will be the number 26 car in the hands of Jamie Unwin. That will be the next car that the race leaders will come up towards. And then just ahead of that will be the next car, which will be the number 13 car in the hands of Ian MacDonald. So, right, more news reaching me. The next news that reaches me is that it may well now be a 10-second penalty for number 95 Hamish Forrest. So if that's the case, this is no longer a battle for the lead of the race in reality, because Hamish Forrest, on corrected times, is going to end up 5 seconds further back from where he is. They're both going to pick up time penalties, but for Marcus Littlewood, it's a 5-second penalty. For Hamish Forrest, it's a 10-second penalty, is the news that's just reached me. It hasn't as yet been confirmed on one version of the timing screen that I've got, but I did see it on another. So, traffic to deal with. There we go, just confirmed now. 10-second penalty for car number 95 for track limits is the message from race control. So Hamish Forrest, I mean, fair play to Hamish Forrest. He's given it everything. He has driven the wheels off his SR3 to try and mount a challenge on Marcus Littlewood's dominance in this championship. Marcus Littlewood still with work to do, though. He's going to weave his way through and past Jamie Unwin as they head round through Starkey's Bridge and up towards Schwantz Curve. He deals with one car. He's still got another one that he will need to work his way through and past. And Hamish Forrest still hasn't given up his aspirations of trying to pick up the overall race lead, albeit he might lose it on corrected times, but it would be a moral victory, he might say. And there's still traffic to deal with as well, so Ian MacDonald's car is the next of those that our race leaders are going to come up and lap. Can Marcus Littlewood get through before they get towards the Fogarty S's? Yes, decisively he nips up the inside of the number 13 car. Hamish Forrest will have to wait until the exit of the corner to work his way through. And Hamish Forrest has now picked up 15-second penalty, it's saying, so it must have been 5 seconds with then 10 seconds added to it, so 15-second penalty for Hamish Forrest, who then makes a small mistake going in towards the Melbourne hairpin and allows Ian MacDonald to wiggle his way through. And our race leader will be heading on to the penultimate lap, I think, this time through. So the order is Marcus Littlewood leading the way, Hamish Forrest in second place, James Pinkerton in third. They've all got time to have penalties for track limits. Fourth is John McLeod at this stage. I haven't really mentioned John much, and that's largely because he's not attracting attention. He's just pounding his way round and not picking up any time penalties. And he, on corrected times, should move ahead of James Pinkerton the way things are at the moment. Paul Denning is fifth on the road and sixth on the road. And again, another car that doesn't have any time penalties is Bobby Thompson. In fact, he's just gone through and ahead of Paul Denning on that lap. So Bobby Thompson, the leading team car, number 21, now up into fifth place. Down to sixth goes Paul Denning, seventh is Rachel Robertson, and eighth is Andy Lowe, but Denning, Robertson and Lowe have all got time penalties for track limits. Ninth is Flame Auricola, and Ross Board completes the top 10 at this stage with now just a minute and a half to go on the clock. Andy Lowe threading his way through traffic. Look in his mirrors, he'll see the number 51 car of Flame Auricola is there. Now Andy Lowe has a time penalty, Flame Auricola doesn't. Andy Lowe has a 15-second penalty for track limits, so on corrected times the black car with a blue stripe up the centre. Flame Auricola will grab that position from Andy Lowe. And Andy Lowe is only 5 seconds back from Rachel Robertson. Rachel Robertson has also got time penalties. She has got a 15-second penalty. So Flame Auricola on corrected times here could clamber up from 9th up to 7th without overtaking the car, just with the time penalties that have been issued. Less than 60 seconds to go for the final race of the year in the Finecut Radical Cup UK. And for the overall lead of the race, Marcus Littlewood has just edged away, hasn't he, in these last few laps from Hamish Forrest, who I think has sort of decided that it's just not going to happen. He pushed hard to get there. He caught. He had a couple of little nibbles to try and get by, but the difficulty was he picked up more time penalties by running wide coming out of corners on circuit, so it sort of undid some of the hard work that he had been looking to do. So race leader Marcus Littlewood onto the last lap of the race, and he will be working his way over the start-finish line before too much longer. There's Paul Denning. Now, he was slow, wasn't he, appearing out of that final sector? He lost about 10 seconds in that final sector, so I think Paul Denning must have had a spin approaching Goddard's and gathered it up. But for Marcus Littlewood, he will just be turning his way for the final time through the Fogarty S's, I would have thought, at the moment, and onto the Melbourne Loop. And he is on course, surely, for win number 14 of the season. Hamish Forrest has now fallen to 2.5 seconds back from the race leader. And it looks as though how fitting that the champion for this year in the Finecut Radical UK Cup Championship is going to claim the final win of the season. Up towards Goddard's comes Marcus Littlewood. He might have picked up some time penalties, but he's going to overcome those because a chunk of the cars behind have also picked them up. Marcus Littlewood is going to win his 14th race in the Finecut Radical Cup UK in 2025. He comes through to claim the win, having already claimed the championship in the sprint race earlier on today. Hamish Forrest finishes second on the road at this stage. Third should be John McLeod, I would have thought. So James Pinkerton is about to come over the start-finish line, but we know he has got some time penalties. So John McLeod just about to take the checkered flag now. Should, on corrected times, move up to third, which he does. James Pinkerton is there in fourth. Bobby Thompson comes through to finish in fifth place. Flame Auricola should be there in sixth place on corrected times, potentially, depending on how she's got on this final lap of the race, because she got other cars ahead of her, but they have all got time penalties. So here comes Paul Denning, and then Rachel Robertson, followed by Andy Lowe and then Flame Auricola, but all of the cars ahead of Flame Auricola have got the time penalty. So yeah, through she comes, gains 3 places on the road and finishes in 6th place. Paul Drenning dropped to 7th with his time penalties. Rachel Robertson drops to 8th, Andy Lowe drops to 9th. Chris Board should be the last car inside the top 10, but he is also the first car that was a lap down in this race. So the cars will be making their way back in towards the pit lane area for the Radical Cup UK. That's it now until almost May of next year, when we'll see them supporting the GT World Challenge at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit. Before June of next year, they'll go to Alton Park for Supercar Pageant. They'll be supporting GB3 at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit in August, and they'll finish their 26th season here at Donington Park. The final win of the year goes the way of the champion. Marcus Littlewood claims the win from Hamish Forrest in 2nd place and John McLeod in 3rd. James Pinkerton in the factory car was there in 4th, and the winner of the team category, which was Jack Young and Bobby Thompson, come through in 5th place. Flame Auricola was 6th, ahead of Paul Denning, Rachel Robertson, Andy Lowe and Ross Board, who completed the top 10. And then as we move outside of the top 10, in 11th place, it was Byron Crawford and Jamie Unwin's car that finished in 11th place. It was Ian McDonald that was there in 12th place. Jordan Delishka and Natalie Neumann were next up in 13th place. Laura O'Connell and Hannah Selsey were in 14th position. And those were the last of the cars that saw the checkered flag in our final race of the 2025 championship season. So that's it. We've claimed and crowned our champions for this year, which is Marcus Littlewood. He will look to see what he might be able to do with his racing plans for next year. But I hope you've enjoyed the action we've brought for you in 2025 from the Finecut Radical UK Cup Championship. From everybody here at Donington Park and Radical Motorsport, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time out. Goodbye.